This week in gaming, PlayStation lays off 900 employees, EA lays off 5% of its workforce, game studios begin to go independent, and Oculus is getting deleted by Meta. This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host, Phil Shoemaker. Say hi to the people, Phil.
I cannot believe you said it. You said, what's popping, players?
I figured I'd say it at some point, and that's going to be today.
It sounds so weird coming out of your mouth.
I felt sick saying it, because I always make fun of him, the other guy who usually hosts this show.
Let's not say his name. Let's just say him.
Yeah, you guys shouldn't know who he is because he decided to get sick and make us do all of this stuff because he's just a coward like that. But
indeed, you coward.
He is
You're
a coward.
You're a coward.
Yeah, he'll never admit such a thing. But here on the Two Penny Gamescast, we talk about video games. We talk about it every single week. Every episode comes out on Tuesday of the Two Penny Gamescast, Saturday for our piggy bank. So look forward to that later this week. I'm not going to do this exact same spiel past the point I just did because I can't remember it. So here I am trying to list everything off the top of my head. Usually,
what episode are we on, Connor?
What episode are we on? We're on episode 189 of the Two Penny Gamescast. It's almost to that 200 episode, which will probably not do anything special, but it's significant to us because we've been doing this since like 2020. And here's to 4 more years or 3 more years or 5 more years or however long we've been doing it. Usually we go live.
Years, like it's a presidential term.
Yeah, and this will line up close to the presidential election that's coming up here, which, by the way, now has the famous Halo composer Marty O'Donnell running for... No, he's not even running for president. He's running for Congress. And he's not going to win. He wouldn't win either. So that's neither here nor there.
It's like Nevada's spot for Congress, I think.
Sure, whatever. Doesn't really matter because we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about video games today. Usually you can find us live on twitch.tv/2pennygames. I read that from my phone. But we're not going live today because I am incapable of doing such a thing.
Connor's not a streamer.
I'm not a streamer, as you'll probably find out over the course of this episode, but I'll do my best.
The only streams he's familiar with is what he does in the bathroom.
I do a very good stream all the time, for now, until I get erectile dysfunction or whatever it is that makes people pee badly. Like I said, I'm not going to go into all of the other spiels that our other co-host or other host usually does, so we're going to jump right into the news, which was extremely heavy this past week, and a lot of it's bad, but some of it actually had some highlights to it.
I feel like when you think about the news, a lot of it has to do with people losing their jobs, which is very unfortunate.
And unfortunately, this week
has been the case for like the past 2 years.
Yep, and it's going to keep on going throughout this entire year and possibly into the next year until people get their shit together. And by people, I mean the corporations that are laying off so many people, which will lead us into the first news story of this week. This layoff is regarding Sony. This is an article directly from Sony at sonyinteractive.com. Difficult news about our workforce. The PlayStation community means everything to us, so I felt it was important. This is from Jim Ryan, the president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. The PlayStation community means everything to us, so I felt it was important to update you on a difficult day at our company. We have made the extremely hard decision to announce our plan to commence a reduction of our overall headcount globally by about 8% or around about 900 people. Subject to local law and consultation processes, employees across the globe, including our studios, are impacted. These are incredibly talented people who have been part of our success, and we are very grateful for the contributions. However, the industry has changed immensely, and we need to future-ready ourselves to set the business up for what lies ahead. We need to deliver on expectations from developers and gamers and continue to propel future technology in gaming. So we took a step back to ensure we are set up to continue bringing the best gaming experiences to the community. Below, I've shared a copy of the email I sent out to the company this morning to provide more context on our thinking. We deeply appreciate support and understanding from the PlayStation community as these decisions are very difficult. Misspelling right there, mistypo. Please rest assured that our plans for reorganizing and streamlining are so we can continue to deliver the best gaming experiences possible. This broke on February 27th, 2024, so I'm assuming the email was around that time, but the email reads as such. Subject: important update regarding organizational organizational restructuring team. It is important to provide you with updates about the business as often as possible. Today, I am writing with sad news. Through discussions over the past few months about the evolving economic landscape, changes in the way we develop, distribute, and launch products, and ensuring our organization is future ready in this rapidly changing industry, we have concluded that the tough decisions have become inevitable. The leadership team and I made the incredibly difficult decision to restructure operations, which regrettably include reduction in our workforce, impacting very talented individuals who have contributed to our success. After careful consideration and many leadership discussions over several months, it has become clear changes need to be made to continue to grow the business and develop the company. We had to step back, look at our businesses holistically, and move forward focusing on the long-term sustainability of the company and delivering the best experiences possible for our community. The goal is to streamline our resources to ensure our continued success and ability to deliver experiences gamers and creators have come to expect from us. I want to be as transparent as possible with you, our partners, and our community about what this means. We envision reducing our headcount by about 900 people, or about 8% of our current workforce. There will be impact for employees across all SIE regions, Americas, EMEA, Japan, and APAC. Several PlayStation studios are affected. I know that receiving this news will be hard and unsettling, and you are wondering what this means for you. Timelines and procedures for how we approach this will vary based on your location due to local laws and regulations. For those of you in the US, all impacted employees will be notified today. In the UK, it is proposed that PlayStation Studios' London studio will close in its entirety, that there will be reductions in Firespite Studio, and there will be reductions in various functions across SIE in the UK. The proposed changes mean that we will enter a period of collective consultation before any final decisions are taken. All employees who are part of the collective consultation will be made aware of the next steps today. In Japan, we will implement a next career support program. Details will be communicated separately. In other countries, we will begin conversations with those who are potentially at risk or impacted as a result of this proposed course of action. For those who will be leaving SIE, you are leaving this company with our deepest respect and admiration for all your efforts during your tenure. For those who will be staying at SIE, we will be saying goodbye to friends and colleagues that we cherish during this process, and this will be painful. Your resilience, sensitivity, and adaptiveness will be critical in the months and weeks to come. This will not be easy, and I'm aware of the impact it will have on well-being. Affected employees will receive support, including severance benefits. While these are challenging times, it is not indicative of a lack of strength of our company, our brand, or our industry. Our goal is to remain single and adaptable, and to continue to focus on delivering the best gaming experiences possible now and in the future. Thank you for understanding during this difficult period. Please be kind to yourselves and to each other. Jim. Thanks, Jim. I'm sure that all those kind words will soften the blow. They will.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of people saying like it's crazy that even after Jim Ryan like announced that he was stepping down, these people are losing their jobs before he does.
Yeah,
they're leaving the company before he does, which is kind of crazy. But I hate that this whole like layoff, I don't want to say layoff culture, but this whole like thing has been so pervasive throughout like the beginning whole quarter of this year, which like we said is going to continue, and all of last year. It seems like it's just not going to stop.
And we basically beat a dead horse with this conversation for the past year, basically, because even though we saw a great uptick in the layoffs happen this year, almost more so than what happened in the entirety of last year, it's been just a waterfall from what happened since COVID took place, where these companies, they just thought they were going to have a business model of being able to constantly put out games, and the amount of people who were playing them as a result of being in lockup were just going to continue. And so they hired employees, they started projects that, as the pandemic ended and people went back to their normal lives, that became a lot less sustainable. Overall, I mean, is this they said this is not indicative of their strength as a company, and that's pretty much true, because their games still make tons of money, like many of these other companies that do, and yet the layoffs continue. It's an issue when it's all a result of bad management, of bad planning, and as we often see in the industry, the gaming industry, but also just in the workforce in America specifically, though this is of course global, it's just par for the course at this point. I don't think.
I do want to just talk about like kind of the other side of the coin when it comes to like people that are kind of trying to prevent layoffs, like the Arrowhead CEO, and how people are, there was a whole thing with like the server issue, and they're resolving that. People were like, "Why don't you hire more people on?" since your game has gotten so big, and so you can help manage all this stuff. And then he was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because if he hires all these people on, eventually he's going to have to lay them off, because that's just the nature of how this works, right? You're not going to be able to, it's not sustainable to have like that big of a team, especially with such a small studio like Arrowhead.
Yeah. It's like if you have the carrot hanging from the stick, and then when they get close to eat it, you just whack them with it, the stick.
It's like, oh, you almost had it, like that Geico commercial.
Except this is a lot more cruel, because it's not a fish.
Shout out to that Arrowhead CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a badass.
I have some good news. We'll go into it more later, but maybe we'll be seeing less of these stories in the future, depending on how things work out. But in case of Sony, they had recently planned a Last of Us multiplayer game. It was all amped up, and then they just canceled it completely. Which, when you have a company like Naughty Dog work on a game that they're typically not used to, live service games, or big open world multiplayer games, because they were pretty ambitious with it from all the information we got, or rather the limited information we got. And they also are not going to release any new pre-existing IPs this year. A lot of those are going to be pushed over to 2025, and so this year is going to be overall a lot more barren than they probably would have planned. So that's probably a reason as to why this decision came about, because they have no new games coming out to feed their employees. And
yeah,
of course,
well, the whole scrapping of the Last of Us, like, quote unquote factions thing, that was the whole story with, Bungie coming in, kind of talking to the Naughty Dog guys, and it's like, hey, we don't think this game is very good. We don't think that this doesn't play very well. This isn't very fun. And so they were like, okay, we don't want to put out a bad game, so then they went in and scrapped it.
Yeah, which I can respect that to a degree, but what are the ramifications of that? Possibly this. It's hard to say exactly.
People losing their jobs, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because, companies like this, they don't just lose out on a bunch of money and then go, oh, well, sorry, guys, we'll just get them the next time. There's going to
We'll get them next time.
Yeah, they will. They'll try to. It's just some people won't be joining that effort. I really don't know what else we can say about this beyond it's just the trend. It's what we've become used to. Yeah. Besides, little good that does, because, well, it's shitty. Yeah, move on. What's going to happen next week? And something is certainly going to happen next week. And
more of this.
Exactly. And in the case of this week, it happened pretty much, soon after. Before I get the time code, stealthily. There you go. You didn't know I was doing that. We'll move on to the next.
Time code? What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Never mind. We'll move over to the next story. This literally was posted a day after this Sony story broke. This is from GameDeveloper.com, from Chris Kerr. EA will spend over $125 million laying off 5% of its workforce. It's a good way to make that title. EA is laying off 5% of its workforce and moving away from licensed IPs it doesn't believe can deliver success in a changing industry. In an SEC filing, the EA Sports FC and Star Wars Jedi developer said the restructuring plan will enable it to drive durable growth, strong cash flow, and stockholder returns. End quote. EA expects to spend between $125 million to $165 million on the restructuring plan, which is expected to be, quote, substantially complete by December 31st, 2024. Quote, these charges consist of approximately $50 million to $65 million associated with office space reductions, approximately $40 million to $55 million related to employee severance and employee-related costs, and $35 million to $45 million in costs associated with licensor commitments, reads the filing. In a business update shared with employees earlier today, EA boss Andrew Wilson spent 3 hefty paragraphs discussing how EA is well positioned to achieve nebulous goals like, quote, entertaining massive online communities and telling blockbuster stories, before actually stating how many jobs are at risk. Eventually, he confirmed the company expects to make approximately 5% of its workforce redundant, but claimed EA will aim to help impacted team members find new roles internally before cutting jobs. He added that EA will be optimizing its, quote, global real estate footprint to better support its business sunsetting some unnamed projects and, quote, moving away from the development of future licensed IP. I understand this will create uncertainty and be challenging for many who have worked with such dedication and passion and have made important contributions to our company, wrote Wilson. While not every team will be impacted, this is the hardest part of these changes, and we have deeply considered every option to try and limit impacts on our teams. End quote. EA previously laid off around 800 employees in March 2023, despite Wilson claiming the company was operating from a position of strength. Mass layoffs have become commonplace in 2024. Major companies, including Microsoft, Sony, Unity, Embracer, and many others, have all cut jobs in the name of sustainability, driving growth, or supercharging shareholder value. EA's latest cuts only add to the wave of uncertainty that is sweeping across the games industry, leaving a trail of talented developers in its wake. Good reporting from you, Chris Kerr, however you would pronounce it. You took a pretty active role in talking about how bullshit this is, which it is. I mean, when
For sure.
one of your main points is, let me read it exactly. Something about drive durable growth, strong cash flow, and stockholder returns. Those first two parts are just PR speak of we are committed to doing good things for the gaming community. It's basically that kind of talk. And the shareholder returns is really where they put a lot of their stock in. And you can kind of see it even in some of the things that they were saying later on about how they're still from a position of strength. That's what you want to give to shareholders, to pretend that, hey, we're not going to make you lose any money. We're just doing some bits and pieces here and there of moving things around. With that being the cost of people losing their jobs after already laying off a bunch of other people last year. What unnamed projects did they cancel? I have no goddamn clue. And
it's crazy to me that EA, they're saying they're moving away from licensed IP when there's so many things that we know that are supposed to be coming down the pipeline. Like there's that just people. I don't understand the wanting to move away from licensed IP. That's like, I feel like that's what you're EA, right? Like that's what draws people in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's not the smartest move in my opinion.
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, EA, you're right. They're not the guys who are known as the Trailblazers. They make, what was originally FIFA. What's it called now? They mentioned it.
SEC. It's like SEC something.
Something that doesn't roll off the tongue. EA Sports FC. Something that doesn't roll off the tongue.
That's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, just like with the Sony story we covered recently, is it actually necessary? It's hard to say. This is in light of a whole restructuring plan, so specific details could get lost on if they necessarily could have saved these jobs or done anything to stop it. It's kind of hard to justify COVID as the reason why all of this is happening because, as I just said a second ago, they laid off people last year. You would think that'd be the ramifications of hiring too many people, of biting off more than you can chew in the pandemic era, but still now we're seeing a 5% layoff of its workforce. I don't even know what that is in terms of raw numbers, since EA is a very big company across the world.
Very big.
Yeah, so it could be more than 800, could be less. It doesn't really matter. It's still jobs being lost. And this is also when you got news of one of the games that they did cancel being the Mandalorian game, which we literally just heard about from a leak, I believe, but still
at the end of last
week.
year. Yeah, we just heard about that.
Yeah, and then it's axed as well. So when you axe games like that from behind the scenes and you don't really have any, standout titles to talk about, seeing as how they were pretty vague about what they exactly canceled, it seems to me like you don't know what you're really doing, what you're really planning on. Because, what does EA really do? Like, what game? They make effectively slop for the most part. I know some people might take criticism with that, especially with their sports games. I'm not a sports game player, so I'm speaking from that position. But they do the same kind of game every single year, and it makes massive amounts of profit. And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. This is a hard pill to swallow when you're making that kind of money. And Star Wars Jedi Survivor came out last year. That did extremely well.
Yeah. Aside from hiccups at the start from launch, but that's a respawn, more of a respawn issue than generally EA,
Yeah, and it was kind of just it wasn't like the first game where it basically made certain people be, it was unplayable for certain people. This one were just typical technical issues that were for the most part hammered out as time went on. All these other things, I'll jump into them. $50 million to $65 million associated with office space reductions. I'm curious as to whether that's because they're just doing that because they're firing so many people, or if they're just shutting down certain offices. Because I do know a lot of other studios, I don't know if EA is susceptible to this, were being bitched at. It's probably not the best word. Developers were complaining about being forced to move back into office spaces, which those cost money. So did they make any attempt to keep people at home so they didn't have to spend money on these things? like I don't know. These things are pretty vague. Pretty vague. You
You
know.
know, I would hope that would be the reason.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Part of me thinks that that's not the case, because you know we're seeing more and more of it now of these companies requiring these developers to come into offices like more than you know what was originally promised, what they were originally contracted to do, which is shitty in its own right. Which I think we actually covered the last time. It was just me and you, um, or maybe it was just me and Tavin, and you weren't there. It was
Mhm.
It was another one where I was there, um, but you know, like I said, I would hope that it was because we can just have these people work from home now, so we can cut office space. But it's probably in reality because they're cutting so much of their workforce that they no longer have need of this office space.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and I mean, the bright side of this entire story, which kind of, once again factors back to the workers, is $40 to $55 million is going to employee severance and employee related costs. It's a good number. Could they have helped them better? Possibly. I remember we covered Riot laying off a bunch of people. I actually took a look, or at least I, ended up seeing their severance package and what exactly they do for their employees when they get fired. And to be honest, it was one of the best I've ever seen.
oh wow,
I can't recall it off the top of my head, but people were given job security by being offered like training and coaching for where you can get new jobs. They were giving a pretty hefty severance package. So I, on an optimistic side, want to say that this is what a big company like EA is doing, but EA has been kind of known to be greedy for many years now, primarily due to microtransactions. And so when you have that kind of company being the one to lay off these people, you can't really give them the benefit of the doubt because they've done nothing to deserve it. Do you have anything to say on that about those?
I'm mainly just curious now because like you said earlier, we don't have like a hard number
Yeah.
of people. It's really just like you said 5%. So I wonder like how many people like that 100 what is it 125 million
Mm-hmm.
is getting split
Mm-hmm.
between like however many people, you know.
And
So who knows if that's actually a good split, and who knows if it's you know just okay.
I mean, we don't even know if 125 is the exact number because the other one's ranging to 165 million.
Exactly.
This is all very, very shifty.
Pretty vague. Pretty
Yeah, and this is all just followed up by a kick in the balls from Chris said, just a 3-paragraph email of what I'm assuming is just business speak, kind of what we saw with the Sony story of we care about you, blah blah blah. Yeah, let's read this here. I have it right here. Continuing to evolve our business and teams. An update on our business from CEO Andrew Wilson, February 28, 2024. Team. This below a statement, by the way, was shared with employees. Okay, you just said that. Team. We are entertaining, inspiring, and connecting more people with content and deeper experiences than ever before. I think I was right with saying it's all bullshit. But over the last year, we have organized our company to further empower our creative leaders by firing them, and to deliver our strategic priorities of entertaining massive online communities, telling blockbuster stories, and harnessing the power of community in and around our games. These actions have positioned us to build bigger, bolder experiences for hundreds of millions of players and fans around the world. We're also leading through an accelerating industry transformation where players' needs and motivations have changed significantly. Fans are increasingly engaging with the largest IP and looking to us for broader experiences where they can play, watch, create content, and forge deeper connections. I'll take a stop here to say fans are increasingly engaging with the largest IP and looking forward to us for broader experiences. No, they're not. EA's not the kind they go for broader experiences. You get the same things you do every single year with just a couple games here and there thrown in with the mix to make people, wow, EA's doing something, EA's doing something pretty interesting, like Jedi Survivor last year. Beyond that, I can't really name off the top of my head what other notable products they did the year before that. It's,
You know, you mentioned large IP,
Mhm.
and then in like almost the same like kind of like time you talk about how you want to move away from licensed
Yep.
stuff. So like I feel like the largest IP like that you can get out there is you know stuff that's in the general zeitgeist. You got your Marvel stuff, you got Star Wars, you got all that like main like juice of the culture of like you know like nerd culture. People love comic books, people love all this stuff, and moving away from stuff like that just seems backwards, you know.
Yeah, I mean, really what it comes down to is the games themselves, because you had the Avengers, the live service game that failed miserably. Then you also
Flop.
had big major flop. Then you also had
That was Square, but
yeah, but this is all about the superhero game genre, because you had Spider-Man 2, obviously very successful, but then you also have Suicide Squad, which has been pretty lambasted as being shitty. So
sorry, this is kind of a non sequitur. Did you see that the Sony has been issuing refunds?
I have
Suicide Squad.
I have
Just like Cyberpunk when it launched.
That's kind of strange to do, because from all the criticisms I've heard about it, and I'm assuming there's technical problems here and there, it wasn't like Cyberpunk where some people like myself and Tavin couldn't just play the game. Yeah, I couldn't play the goddamn game. So it seems kind of weird that they're giving refunds for that one. I feel like they can't afford it, but I guess what? This is one of the few times I'll side on the big business's side. I'll side with the big business. You're going to reward people for buying Suicide Squad with a refund. Those people dug their own grave. If you bought that game after everything we've known about it, sorry, you shouldn't be given refunds. There's no sympathy to be had for you there.
I don't know, Connor. You're kind of pissing into the wind here, because last year you did draft that onto your fantasy critic team. So
I did, but that was before things came out, and then I dropped it when it did. The moment it did, I was like, "Oh, this game's not going to be good," and so I dropped it. So I'm still winning.
You dropped it. You dropped it because it got moved to this year rather than last year.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Our industry exists at the cutting edge of entertainment and today's dynamic environment. We are advancing the way we work and continuing to evolve our business. As a company full of creators and storytellers, we believe in the value of teams innovating together and continue to learn and adopt new ways of collaborating to grow and serve our global communities. Given how and when we are working, we are continuing to optimize our global real estate footprint to best support our business. We are also sunsetting games and moving away from the development of future licensed IP that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industry. This greater focus will allow us to drive creativity, accelerate innovation, and double down on our biggest opportunities, including our own IP and sports and massive online communities, deliver the entertainment players want today and tomorrow. Lastly, we are streamlining our company operations to deliver deeper, more connected experiences for fans everywhere that build community, shape culture, and grow fandom. In this time of change, we expect these decisions to impact approximately 5% of our workforce. I understand this will create uncertainty and will be challenging for many who have worked with such dedication and passion and have made important contributions to our company. While not every team will be impacted, this is the hardest part of these changes, and we have deeply considered every option to try and limit impacts to our teams. Our primary goal is to provide team members with opportunities to find new roles and paths to transition onto other projects. Where that's not possible, we will continue to support and work with each colleague with the utmost attention, care, and respect. Communicating these impacts have already begun, and we will be large and completed by early next quarter. I want to extend my appreciation to everyone who has helped contribute to our EA's ongoing story. We are a team that leans into our values to lead the future of entertainment, and I look forward to what we will create together. Thank you for all that you do. Andrew Piston. Wilson. Yeah.
All right, Connor. Maybe try reading that a little faster.
I will try next time, but I won't read it again. It is just generic, bullshit speak, and he just kind of slides in near the end there. We'll be laying off about 5% of our workforce, so just keep that in mind. And we appreciate you and thank you. And I'm done with this email. I'm done, because obviously it's just he didn't even write that. I doubt he wrote that. He had some PR schmuck who has to break this bad news, do it, and it's just like everything else we've covered for a while now. Bullshit.
He put his name on it, so he made it.
He did. That is what that means. But like I said earlier, there are some good things that are coming as a result of these layoffs. At least I think they're a result of it.
There's the layoffs, and sometimes you just lay yourself off and you go independent.
And who does that, Phil?
We got a few people going independent this week. I believe the first one that I have listed here is more towards you. We got Saber Interactive, which is that's pretty cool. They make the Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, and they're working on the KOTOR remake.
They are indeed.
There you go. So let's see here. I guess is there an actual article here, or is there we go?
Yeah. The good old games industry.
This is your little bag, so I'll let you read this one about.
I will do that. Like I said, games industry biz from Jeffrey Rousseau. Report: Saber Interactive buys itself back from Embracer in $500 million deal. The developer of the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was originally acquired back in 2020. Embracer Group is poised to sell off Saber Interactive to a private investor group in a deal up to $500 million. As reported by Bloomberg, a source familiar with this matter said Saber will continue developing the remake of Star Wars The Knights of the Old Republic. This sale would be Embracer's most significant move in its ongoing restructuring program. The initiative resulted from a $2 billion deal falling through for Embracer, resulting in multiple layoffs and shuttering of studios. Saber Interactive was originally acquired by Embracer in 2020 for $525 million. In 2022, development of the Star Wars of the Knights of the Old Republic remake was passed to Saber from Aspie Media after it was on an indefinite hiatus. The studio is poised to release Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine 2, John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, and Expeditions, a Mud Rider game this year. But that's not all. You know, who else is leaving Embracer? Do you know?
Gearbox is leaving Embracer.
Yeah, that's good.
Sorry.
Gotcha.
Goodbye to my quesadilla.
Gotcha. Taco Bell loser.
Not Taco Bell, it's my homemade.
Damn, okay. Never mind.
Sorry, I didn't have this pulled up. There we go.
Got a little spiciness in your throat.
Yeah. Sorry. From Kotaku, we got Embracer. Borderlands Studio will escape the most divisive company in gaming. Gearbox is leaving the Embracer fallout behind, as does wait for answers on what's next. By Ethan Gatch on Kotaku.com. Embracer bought Borderlands maker Gearbox Entertainment for $1.3 billion back in early 2021 amid an unprecedented acquisition spree that since turned into a financial disaster. Now, just 3 years later, Kotaku has learned that Gearbox is closer than ever than being sold out from under what is arguably the most hated company in gaming. Gearbox CEO and co-founder Randy Pitchford held a town hall with staff earlier this week in which he told employees that a decision had been made regarding the studio's future, with more information to be shared next month. According to two sources familiar with the meeting, for months now, Pitchford has told developers at Gearbox that there were three possible scenarios: stay with Embracer, sell to someone else, or finance a buyout and go back to being independently run. Kotaku understands that the decision was made to sell, and a deal is in the late stages of being finalized. Embracer did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Pitchford sent Kotaku the following statement: "I'm delighted that what we might be up to is interesting enough to people that you want to make a story about us for your readers. I'm honored and humbled that our company is a topic of rumor, speculation, and discussion. As always, we will be thrilled to share whenever we have projects to announce or news to share as we work hard towards our mission to entertain the world." Yeah, so, they're not necessarily going independent, but they are being sold.
Yeah, out from under the yoke of Embracer.
Embracer, indeed. Which, it's good news. Me being a big Borderlands fan, this is really exciting. Maybe Borderlands 4 will be good.
Well, that remains to be seen. But at the very least, it won't be subject to whatever Embracer Group happens to be going through at that time.
Indeed.
Now,
the news I'm most excited about. Sorry, unless you had something else to say.
No, please continue this. Let's get through all this stuff first.
The news I'm most excited about for a studio going independent comes from a blog post from Toys for Bob. It says, "We're thrilled to announce that Toys for Bob is spinning off as an independent game development studio. Over the years, we've inspired love, joy, and laughter for the inner child in all gamers. We pioneered new IP and hardware technologies in Skylanders. We raised the bar for best-in-class remasters in Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and we've taken Crash Bandicoot to innovative, critically acclaimed new heights. With the same enthusiasm and passion, we believe that now is the time to take the studio and our future games to the next level. This opportunity allows us to return to our roots of being a small and nimble studio. To make this news even more exciting, we're exploring a possible partnership between our new studio and Microsoft. And while we're in the early days of developing our next new game and a ways away from making any announcements, our team is excited to develop new stories, new characters, and new gameplay experiences. Our friends at Activision and Microsoft have been extremely supportive of our new direction, and we're confident that we will continue to work closely together as part of our future. So keep your horns on and your eyes out for more news. Thank you to our community of players for always supporting us through our journey. We can't wait to share updates on our new adventure as an indie studio. Talk to you soon." That comes from Paul Yen and Avery Lodato from the Toys for Bob blog.
And I'll cap this off with one last story before we get into the bigger meat of it. That's not the last one who went independent.
They mentioned in the blog post, but Toys for Bob being the Spyro and Crash, they've taken over those IPs, which very important to little Phil over here.
It's like you played those games when you were a kid or something.
Yeah. And when I was an adult. Yeah.
Well, the last bit of information regarding all of these changes in the gaming landscape is from Remedy, the creators of Control. If you don't know, Alan Wake.
Yep.
This is from Remedy's games.com, their investors page. Remedy Entertainment PLC, inside information. Remedy acquires full rights to the Control franchise from 505 Games. So this is not the entirety of everything they own, but it's something. Today, Remedy Entertainment PLC and 505 Games announce a transaction upon which all publishing, distribution, and marketing and other rights to Control, codename Condor, Control 2, and all future Control products will revert to Remedy. The Control franchise is in the core of Remedy, having acquired the full rights to Control, Condor, and Control 2. Remedy is now in a position to make the right product and business decisions, focusing on long-term franchise growth. The key terms of the transaction are as follows. Termination of agreements. Publishing agreements for Control, codename Condor, and Control 2 are immediately terminated by mutual agreement. Reversion of rights. For Control 2 and codename Condor, all publishing, distribution, marketing, and other and all other rights licensed to 505 Games revert to Remedy with immediate effect. 505 Games will continue as the publisher of Control through a transition period ending December 31st, 2024. Under the terms of the original Control publishing agreement, in addition, 505 Games continues to administrate existing B2B deals for Control until their agreed expiration dates. After the transition period and the expiry of these of these B2B deals, 505 Games will have no future royalty or other rights to Control. Purchase price and cash flow effect. The maximum purchase price for the transaction is approximately 17 million euros, which equals the amount that 505 Games has paid for the development of codename Condor and Control 2 to date, including a minor premium. Remedy is entitled to set off certain receivables from the purchase price, and therefore the cash flow effect from the transaction will be clearly less than the purchase price. Remedy will pay the net purchase price in 3 cash installments during the next 12 months. So, not as substantial as the last couple of stories we covered, but this is all indicative of a trend. In a time where we've seen massive layoffs, very little control of developers to do as they please and not just get fired en masse, this is one of the more understandable avenues people would start to take. I guess the one issue I take with all of this, to get it out of the way, because I think this is overall good news stories, is the alternative to just going your own way is to start a union. The video games industry is notably anti-union. It's very hard for them to survive. It was a very big deal when Raven Software, the QA testers of Raven Software, were able to achieve their own union underneath Blizzard Activision at the time. Now they're owned by Microsoft. Still, same bit applies. There's not much unionization going on, and that could solve a lot of the problems that the game industry has been facing. But I understand it's hard to unionize, especially when you're under companies like Embracer, who we have, pretty much known for these past couple of years, are not a good game company with how often they lay off their people. They probably do it more than any other company does. And the fact that they bought up so many other publishers, developers, and then axe them later on down the line or axe tons of employees, it's good that they're getting out from under their shadow. Overall, I'm just going to look forward to seeing these companies thrive on their own, because it mentioned in the, I believe it was the Saber Interactive article, Savvy Games was it was a Saudi Arabian game company. When I say Saudi Arabian game company, I mean that it's directly owned by the Saudi Arabian government. They were having a deal with them. It fell through. I think the deal, without having to go back and look, was $2 billion. I say that as I go back and look. That fell through, and that was kind of the cause of a lot of their layoffs that occurred. And now them selling off their publishers, their developers, because if you guys can't keep your shit together, might as well not have to deal with the problems that come with having all of these companies under your umbrella. I wonder how this is going to impact the games that are currently being made, if we're going to see delays, particularly in the Space Marine 2, which I'm very much looking forward to, is on my, I believe, on my Fantasy Critic. Yeah, it's on my Fantasy Critic. Of course it is.
Space Marine 2 is, yes.
Yeah, so I hope for that reason specifically, it does end up coming out this year, but I could see them having to delay stuff as a result of that. And
I
this
don't
is
know,
all.
man. It has a date and everything, so who knows?
It does, and I guess that's just me being worrisome because I do love that for the original game, and I'm excited to see what they do with the second one. More notable, I think, is the Knights of the Old Republic because it wasn't long ago where we were getting reports that it was canceled, and
Yeah.
Tavin was specifically sad about that. And so I think this allows them to continue making that game and not have it just get canned. And I think this might have been, it might have been one of the reasons for why this deal ended up being approved because, I'm assuming these developers are passionate about the games they make. And so not only giving more control, but not having their products go belly up before they even come out is always a plus for them. So I'm assuming they're pretty happy over there, not having to worry about getting cut by Embracer at a moment's notice, as they tend to do.
Yeah.
Toys for Bob, I mean, good for them.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I'm very curious as to like what their next step would be in terms of like what is coming next down the pipeline from them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I adored both the the Spider Reignited trilogy and the Crash Insane trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were incredible remakes. Or they're full remakes.
Oh yeah,
I think.
You would know more than I would, but I believe they were. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought they were a blast. I played the first Skylanders when I was a lot younger, but that's about it.
And now you get to see them. What was the last of the game they made? I can't remember. Was this
The last game?
Yeah, remake included. Like
I mean, Crash Team Rumble.
It was Crash Team Rumble, which I heard, but that was the racing game, right?
No, that's Crash Team Racing.
Crash Team Racing. Really? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, never mind. I mean,
Bob.
There are some risks to this because when you don't have the big boy holding you up, there could be
Crash Team Rumble is their most recent game that came out last year.
That was a fighting game then. That's my next guess. It was like
the Arena Battler, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good for them. I hope that decisions in the future don't cause them to have to lay off people because when you go independent, I feel like one of the main issues is that your game has to succeed. Otherwise, you're directly going to feel the ramifications of it a lot harder than you would have if you weren't owned by someone like Embracer, which I think is a good trade-off. But there is some potential risks that you're taking there. But Toys for Bob has always made good games. I don't remember the last time they've had a negatively received game. Though I'm not too familiar myself with how well they did financially. I'm assuming, considering they've just continuously put out games, it's working for them on some level. So that and Remedy acquiring the rights to Control, I wonder how this is also going to affect, similar to the Space Marine 2, the release of Control, because it said that they're going to continue to be the publisher through a transition period ending December 31st, 2024. I doubt anything's going to come out before then, but it's because December 31st is also just kind of a general date. It's like the end of the year. It's kind of a good time to wrap it all up, at least from this guy right here who has no actual business experience. But I guess they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, let's certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Well, Connor, do we have anything else on the docket?
We, as a matter of fact, do. You know what? I said I messed up, Phil. Usually when we do this, Tavin says, that was our first penny. For our second penny,
don't worry about it.
First penny was Sony.
You also missed the whole. We bring you our two topics, two pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them.
But okay,
you missed all that. But I wasn't gonna bring it up. But then you decided to bring this part up, so now I have to make you feel worse about it. So.
I mean, I don't feel too bad because I did say on the front of things I wasn't gonna do his entire spiel. I just did that one bit of it, so I gave myself culpability to not be criticized by you, fucking Phil.
Okay, all right. Well,
yeah, shut your goddamn mouth, why don't you? Huh? And read the next story. Read your second, and the final penny of the day.
All right. Well, coming from IGN here, we have Taylor Lyles talking about how Meta will delete all Oculus accounts later this month. So make sure to migrate to a Meta account unless you want to lose all your games and your store credit. Says here, the final nail in the coffin for Oculus branding is coming, as Meta announced today, being March 4th, 2024. that those who fail to migrate their Oculus account to a Meta account will lose access to all their games and in-app purchases at the end of the month. In an email sent out to some Quest users spotted by The Verge, Meta warned that if you do not integrate your Oculus account into a Meta account by March 29th, not only will it delete your account, but you will lose access to anything from the account, including games, DLC, achievements, and store credit. The move comes as no surprise. In 2021, when Facebook rebranded itself to Meta, the tech giant revealed plans to retire the Oculus brand to simplify its brand architecture. This included renaming the Oculus Quest to the MetaQuest line instead, the MetaQuest line of standalone VR headsets. In June 2022, Meta announced the ability to create a Meta account, a more approachable alternative for Quest owners to log into their headset without creating or logging into their Facebook account, or something that was at the time a major drawback for Quest 2 owners. Having a Facebook account, that is. Users can seamlessly migrate their Oculus account to a Meta account by heading to Meta's official website and signing up for a Meta account. However, users must use the same email address associated with their Oculus account for their games, store credits, and other user data in their newly created Meta account.
You know, it seems like this transition's pretty simple. You know, it's kind of strange that this is, what they're doing. It makes, I mean, I guess it makes sense when you don't know what the hell you exactly want for yourself, Facebook, but, my main...
They're not Facebook anymore.
They're not. Oh, you're right. They're Meta.
Meta.
Yes, sure. Not that it matters. That's like, why don't we treat that like the X/Twitter debacle? Oh, it's changed, but everyone just calls it the same thing.
Well,
why not?
I mean, it's mainly because Facebook still exists. It's a website. It's a social media.
I guess
but
so.
the company itself is no longer called Facebook.
Sure. I guess that's what they like doing now. Whatever. I'm like I said, it's not really a big deal. It's not like they're deleting things from your library, which I believe happened recently with what was that story? Was it in regards to PlayStation, like stuff in the PlayStation Store?
I don't know,
like that?
but Connor, they are if you don't migrate your account.
Yeah, you don't. If you don't, but it seems like the migrating your account isn't exactly a tall order. It's just a understandable process for when you're making this much of a shift. My main takeaway, and I'm ashamed Tavin's not here to yell at me, since I don't think you'll be as angry for me saying this. This is kind of a little warning symbol, I think, about owning games digitally. Because here you have a game, only owning games digitally. Because here you have a situation where all these digital games are just going to go away if you don't do a specific thing. Now, they obviously don't want to, actively take away people's games, so this is more of a hypothetical situation. But the ownership of just digital media is tenuous. It can be tenuous. And I think this is an indication of people who are so into just doing digital games. And if Tavin was here saying that the future is going entirely digital, I think it's a bad idea to do that. And this is a case example of why. Because
you see, I don't entirely disagree with you, because I ran into an issue. I don't know if I've talked about it on podcasts before, but Crunchyroll and Funimation,
yes,
they merged not too long ago, and Funimation is closing its service. Like, they're migrating everything over to Crunchyroll.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, myself, I own Blu-rays of some of my favorite animes, and those come with digital versions of them, so you can watch them on your phone or your like whatever you have, whatever device you have. Wherever you go, you don't have to use the disc. I no longer have access to those digital versions because Crunchyroll doesn't support that.
Jesus, yeah, that sucks ass.
So, yeah, but I still have my physical copies. So
see, that's what matters. You got your physical stuff. It's not going anywhere. And I think this is an avenue that gaming is going to be facing here going down the line, because you can kind of see issues like that, as you said, pop up. We're kind of in a new space where we don't really know what it's going to look like on the video game scene, because we have case examples of them being able to remove games from being owned digitally. And then you also have the factor of certain things being changed in the digital format of the game, or anything, really, any product. I specifically moved to the example of, I believe this might be a bad example. The Sailor Moon might not be a good example. I'm diving into the anime realm, which is a personal opinion, but Neon Genesis Evangelion. The original dub is pretty iconic. very well liked, very iconic voices. But when Netflix put it on their platform, they changed the voice actors in a way that I wasn't a big fan of. This isn't a outright negative thing. It's really just down to a taste, but it's also indicative, once again, of things as you know them can be altered on digital. Whereas on physical, you can't really do that unless it was specifically released to be that way. And so I feel like that's another reason as to why you should still buy physical games. I'm not saying everything. I'm not the kind of guy who's like, if you don't buy physical games, you're doing it wrong. I buy digital and I buy physical. I switch. I generally buy physical if I want the game to be in my possession, in my hands, more for a collector's type of deal. But, all the same, I feel a lot more secure with my games owned by me physically than digitally.
I get that. I'm with that. I'll say a good 75 to 80% of the games I own are digital.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have my old physical copies of some of the most important games to myself. So
yeah, well, hopefully those don't get taken away from you.
I sure hope not. Hope not.
But with that, this was the episode 189. Oh God, Christ! 189 of the Two Penny Gamescast.
What? Why did you freak out for a second?
I thought I said it. I thought it was 190, but it's not. It's 190 next week. Yes.
189.
Now Tavin would actually usually be transitioning to our Fable review because every single month we do something called the Game Club. And in the Game Club, we play a game.
That's right.
Two Penny Game Club, where every other month we have a different style of how we choose a game to play for the selective month. It started off with a wheel, which we still do, which we did last month, and it chose Fable. So today was going to be the review of it, but Tavin not only was unable to complete the game, but he couldn't sit here to review it. So we're going to have very, very lazy. And I played it so I could play Final Fantasy, and he couldn't even do that same thing. He's a weaker gamer than I am, but I can't expect him to be on my level. But we will have that review out. It's going to be delayed a week. And subsequently, our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth review will be delayed another week as well. We will not yet tell you what this month's game is, but we know what it is, personally. And you're going to have to find out. Oh, yeah. It's Phil's choice, because the other way we choose this game is...
Phil's choice for March.
It is. We alternate the wheel to a person choosing, to wheel, person choosing, etc. I started it out this year with Final Fantasy VII. It went on to do the Fable game that we've just been playing. March is Phil. Next month, whatever the game decides to be picked by the wheel. Yep. Following that, Tavin's pick. Go all the way back over again.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
But please follow us on Twitter. In the links.
All the social medias will be below.
It'll be below, as well as our Twitch channel, which we, like I said, stream whenever we actually can, which is most every Monday, but not this Monday. And other than that, Phil, say bye to the people.
Yeah. Bye.
You said it, you fucking cuck.